part of trading is, to be gentle with the ones who come and say, hey, and we now have this one where I say, from that story tree, tell me your story, and I'll tell you my story, and how can your story and my story become an our story? And one of the things is that I find story has no colour, but what it has is it's got this relationship, it has connection, and hopefully becomes something that is living so that we can pass that story down, if that makes any sense. And so that, my children's children can then have a story to be told, and it might not be pleasant, but it can be fulfilling, it can be engaging, and it could also inform our children about their place and their place in the world. And because we've got I come from a tribe who has 40 plus other tribes who have been placed on this place called Palm. And to my shame, I remember saying to a young man who was interviewing for a job, and I said, tell me your story. And another uncle steps in for him and he goes, and he has to tell him his story. Oh, by the way, this, and there was a sadness about that. Not only for me, but also an awful embarrassment for that young man. And somehow I think I know, we've got to help our people find their place and their belonging and their connection, if that makes any sense. And this can be one vehicle where we can also shed some light into how our people have been displaced. Then that's got to be a good thing. It has to be a good thing. So when Mark comes to our place and tells me about his story, I remember talking with the old fellas and I went, well, he's got this idea of merging the story and potentially giving it a contemporary sort of flavour. And we know that there are stories like the rabbit-proof fence and those sorts of things that enable hard stories to get into the contemporary so that it's a little bit more digestible.
Yeah.
So that then people then go, oh, and they might dig a little bit deeper. So that conversation about, you're stepping into your father's footprint, you just go, that's good. So yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Dad shared that story with you for a purpose, you know what I mean? So I believe paying the deepest respect to that knowledge is actually sort of getting it out there and sort of sharing that story, sharing that knowledge, sharing that pathway, sharing that connection.
The language part of it's really a very important part of this project, really.
Yeah, it is.
Because that's what you guys are involved in, is the revitalisation of it. Because unlike the Gunditjmara language, which I think survived more or less, you tell me, there was the Wadawurrung got lost along the way.
The Wadawurrung got lost because that were put onto missions. So my nan was born on the Framingham mission down in Warrnambool, in Victoria, but her father, he was Wadawurrung Gunditjmara, so he carried the two bloodlines. But my grandmother was forbidden to speak her language, practice her culture, and when I was reading the stuff on the mission, my grandmother was removed through the Half-Caste Act. And you can only call it that because that was the act. And she was forbidden to speak to her family and full-blooded family too. So by reading that, it brought back all that. And my aunties and that tell me that my nan could speak language because they heard her speaking it to the old fellas, but she spoke it away from it. So our language passed away with my nan. So we had to revive our language down here. So that was a real thing, finding the written language. And the Europeans that had recorded our language recorded with a English lens.
One of the priorities that we've discussed, because I'm not a big reader myself, when I was doing my law stuff and I had to read for law, it was really difficult for me, you know, because you got to read with a laser brain, and I found it really hard to concentrate. We think that the audiobook is going to be super important. We think that that's going to be an important job for us, because it'll also record the language.
Coming from thousands of years culture where, the stories are oral, and your way of memory and remembering and having your memory embedded into numerous, your landscape and your song and the sounds. Therefore, a sound record of it that probably captures the scenery at the time, probably is a bit more, can capture a little bit more of the feeling. I was just listening to Julie, and she, when there was this traumatizing, factor in the reading, she said, "Oh, I just,"
And then she made a sound.
She makes the sound.
Yes.
So this is fantastic to hear, because this is a very powerful way of saying how traumatic and shocking, and you don't have a word that depicts the despicable behavior and actions of someone else, because there are no words. Words can capture the horrendous nature of what people went through, because our human sentience, we are sentient beings, therefore many times our language seems to betray us if we try to capture that, but the sounds and the body language says a lot about that. And I strongly believe that having alternative formats for this story, hopefully it can have resonance for many people, and many people, don't like to read, and who says that reading is this high kind of thing is equally important for people who don't read, but they like to hear.
And I listen to audiobooks in my car.
Audiobooks in the car, yeah.
All the time you're in the car. As soon as I get in my car, an audiobook comes on, and I listen to it.
Will that be a dramatisation? Will there be a mixture of male and female voices in that space? And I do know that sometimes there's this thing called calm, and that called calm, and they would use different people's voices.
Yep.
And I remember thinking to myself, that you react, like some people might have a reaction and engage a little bit more with female, and some with menfolk, deep, whether deep or, So not to complicate it, but just to cast it in the sense that us mob, when we hear a story, it's usually by that ear. We're not big readers, and I do remember even when I'd be at college doing things. I'm doing this one here, trying to pick up what that lecturer is sort of saying, and you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'd be really rather excited that you're going to.
Well, I'm a musician, so my whole thing is about ear. My whole life has been about ear. Listening rather than. Writing this book, it was just crazy. I went into a trance for a while, but writing it's not the same as reading. It's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
But no, casting all that is, you know, is important, and having the language exactly right is important. Like, I'm a songwriter, and so when I collaborate with people as a songwriter, it's natural that you're gonna, that they, you know, they're gonna get a piece of ownership of the song, and this is a song. What we're writing, what we're creating together is a song, and it is, and so therefore we're all owners in it.
The petrol that's been used to get this to where it is coming from resources. Yourself, Mark, I'm not fully across how you're engineering that, but I have a sense of the generosity of spirit.
God bless you. We want this to make money for it to fuel all these things, but initially it's gonna that's what getting a publisher will do. Getting a publisher will get us an advance, maybe not, but maybe, and then we can put that to the audiobook.
Yeah.
Or we can go to Creative Victoria, go to Creative Australia.
Yeah.
I've you know, Troy at Creative Victoria. I'm sure he would. Do you know them?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he would get it.
Yep.
And so I think we can find. I think we'll be able to. But as I said to you before, that everything I've done in my life has only ever been about having copyrights, and the copyrights have paid enough for me to put money back into copyrights. My wife doesn't understand it, believe me.
Yeah.
She doesn't. She doesn't.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand it. But that's you know, absolutely everybody's paying for this.
Yeah.
That song.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's what's paying for it.
Yeah.
But in the end, we want it to be generating for us all, and also to cover the costs of audiobooks and other things. But if we have to get an advance, and if we can get an advance, because publishing is a very difficult game right now, and because people aren't buying things like that anymore. Still, we can, but it is a reality. But whatever, in the end, I would pay for the audiobook because it's, I've got minutes to go, mate. You know what I mean? No, I have. I've committed to 10 years to people that I'm working with. But you know, that's if everything goes well. And getting the audiobook right is the concrete. After that, then it can be, I can be gone, and you know.
Yeah.
And Dave and Katie can work it out.
Yeah.
Everything I've done in my life, no one else has ever believed in. You know what I mean? And I've had to believe myself. And thank God I've now got a group of believers. So it's the first time for me to be in a position like this.
And so there is a sense in which we go, ownership or holders of stories is one thing. Remuneration and payment, I think, for me is another. So we would say, yeah, absolutely, we have got a part of the story that we want to hold. But if there was a part of the story where you go, okay, well, because there's something that's been generated, we will go, okay, well then here you go. We'll just.
My response to that is to say that my whole life, all I've ever done is create copyrights, and most of them have been worth nothing. You know, 98% of them have been worth nothing. But every now and then, every now and then,
you get a hit.
No, exactly. But every now and then I get a hit, and it's been enough. But it's been enough to sustain my family. It's been enough to sustain my family for my life. No, for my life. And that's the thing, working with songlines and the thing about ownership. It's about you owning it.
That's the thing. And if that creates an income, it might create 53 cents. You know, we don't know.
I know what you fellas are saying, but with your part in the story, with your fella in there being taken over to America, our fellas were rounded up and put into the other character in there. He was put into the circuses. And that, so our people, as you know, were under the Fauna and Flora Act. So our people traditionally were put into circuses as freaks or boxers. So the story of your fella being taken to America, and that it shows me that maybe yous were worse off than us. We didn't get shipped to America. We only got shipped in Victoria.
I've got to be honest, I see it as two stories. One is my family story and one is your family story.
Yeah. I agree you should be getting 50%, Mark.
Yeah.
You've done the legwork, you've done the writing, you've done all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've consulted us,
Yeah.
which is a blessing. Not many white fellas consult us when they're doing our stories.
Okay.
And that's factual.